A U.S. envoy for the Ukraine conflict, Keith Kellogg, met President Volodymyr Zelenskiy in Kiev on Thursday. Following the meeting on the social media platform X, Zelensky said that he had a detailed and productive conversation with Kellogg about prisoners of war, effective security guarantees that would be part of any peace agreement, and the battlefield situation. Zelensky said it was crucial that both the Kellogg meeting and cooperation with Washington in general were constructive, and added the talks restore hope in terms of achieving an agreement with Washington.
General Kellogg, our talks restore hope. We need strong agreements with America, agreements that will really work. I gave instruction to work fast and very much even-handedly. Economic interest and security interest should always go hand in hand, and the details of the agreement are important. The better the details are drafted, the better the result.
Meanwhile, White House National Security Advisor Mike Waltz stated that U.S. President Trump is very frustrated with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskiy. He says Zelensky needs to come back to the negotiating table and strike a critical minerals deal that recognizes the amount of aid the U.S. has provided the country in its fight against Russia. Earlier on Wednesday, Zelensky rejected U.S. demands for $500 billion in mineral wealth from Ukraine to repay Washington for wartime aid, saying the United States had supplied nowhere near that sum so far and offered no specific security guarantees in the agreement.
His frustration with President Zelensky is that you've heard is multifold. One, there needs to be a deep appreciation for what the American people, what the American taxpayer, what President Trump did in his first term, and what we've done since. So some of the rhetoric coming out of Kyiv, frankly, and insults to President Trump were unacceptable. He needs to come back to the table, and we're going to continue to have discussions about where that deal is going.
Further, SpaceX and Tesla boss Elon Musk lashed out at Zelensky, claiming Ukrainians despise him and supported Trump's stance on excluding him from Russia peace talks. The comments by the tech tycoon, who is leading Trump's huge U.S. government overhaul, came as the White House told Zelensky to stop insults against Trump and sign a minerals deal with Washington. Musk accused Zelensky of running a massive corruption operation fueled by the deaths of Ukrainian soldiers and claimed that Zelensky cancelled elections out of fear of losing, despite controlling all Ukrainian media. Musk also praised Trump, describing him as highly pragmatic in handling the conflict. And emphasizing the need to end the conflict, U.S. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson stated that there is no appetite for another funding bill for Ukraine.
An end to the conflict, and I can tell you that our European allies understand the necessity of this as well. It's drug on too long. By some estimates, Russia's lost almost 700,000 troops, maybe more. The Ukrainians have suffered great losses. We have to bring an end to the conflict. President Trump is exactly right. It's time for it to end, and he is the brute force, I think, that can make that happen.
All right, DD India's Anil Thomas joins us with more details on this. Good morning, Anil. Keith Kellogg's trip to Ukraine has coincided with a recent heat between Trump and Zelensky, which has been raising questions about the US's relations with Ukraine particularly. You think this trip is going to help in negotiations?
It once again reflects the weak position that Zelensky and Ukraine is in the first place. Secondly, it also, once again resurfaces the talk about a total change, especially in US-Ukraine relations. And, the relations being strained between the two nations clearly is also reflective of the fact that Russia enjoys an upper hand in the negotiations that follow from here on. And I think that doesn't leave the world order with a lot of positives to look at, because what the US says is going to be picked by many of the nations who are sitting on the fence, especially when it comes to supporting Russia or Ukraine. I think this will have a cascading effect. The way America has reacted, the way America is, clearly looking at taking, one side, clearly leaves Ukraine with no option but to look at, whatever is available on the table, take it and be quiet. And on the other hand, Keith Kellogg's coming clearly is once again, trying to push trying to push Ukraine to concede more and for Russia to gain more. And I think that leaves the table very much open. And Russia clearly has the upper hand in whatever discussions, whatever deliberations from here on move. Remember, we are very close to, we are very close to 3 years of this particular conflict between the two countries. And Ukraine wants this conflict to end pretty soon because the damage is heavy on Ukraine's side. But I think the way things are moving, Ukraine doesn't have much to choose on the table rather than take whatever is offered.
Anil, you said how America has been reacting. Trump called Zelensky a dictator, and it has deepened rift between Washington and Kiev amid Russia-Ukraine conflict. You think Trump's stunning blow to Kiev amid frustration with Zelensky gives Russia an edge in peace talks?
Well, one needs to look at what Trump said. Trump said Ukraine started the war. If one takes a look at the timeline of this particular war, I don't believe so. This is a conflict between the two nations that began way back in 2014. 2022 is just where it escalated to a new level where the world took notice because world global supply chains got hit. That's when the world took notice of this particular conflict. It's been on for long. Let's also look at the numbers purely in terms of how things have panned out. Close to 8 million people have left Ukraine. Close to 4.5 million people inside Ukraine are displaced. And in terms of casualty too, I think Ukraine has much to lose in this entire conflict. And the way things stand, calling Zelensky a dictator, for the simple reason, I think, Trump has been driven by the fact that there have not been elections. Elections were due in Ukraine, which have not taken place. And a person who is not being elected by the people is a fair assumption of calling Zelensky a dictator. But having said all this, we still believe that Ukraine has much to lose in this because Ukraine is not part of the negotiations that Russia and the US had in Saudi Arabia. And when Ukraine is out of the table, Ukraine is generally being informed about the decisions being taken and Ukraine being taken along. And I think the European Union, Ukraine in particular, also UK feeling the heat when it comes to the entire European Union being kept out of it. I think the only concession that Ukraine might be looking to get, see, whatever Ukraine is looking to get, nothing is possible. NATO membership, US has clearly said no. Ukraine asking for 2014, all that Russia is annexed to be given back, that's almost 20% of Ukraine land. That's off the table. I think the only thing that Ukraine could be looking is maybe getting a European Union membership. And if that too, Russia and US agree on that same line, I think not much to choose. Ukraine is on the losing end, and I think this particular deliberations, the way it is going, Ukraine has more to lose. As I said again, Ukraine has more to lose, but Ukraine would be hoping against hope because they have lost much. They can't afford to lose more, and they go to look at an end to this conflict so that people can come back and maybe look at elections maybe 6 to 8 months down the line.
We'll wait and see what happens next. We'll leave it at that. Thank you for your input, Sanit.